SK Bait 2.4 Cycle. This deck will make your opponent rage quit before overtime even starts. And the craziest part? It only costs 2.4 elixir on average. Skeleton King Bait is the cheapest high-skill deck in Clash Royale right now. We're talking Dart Goblin for ranged chip, Fire Spirit and Ice Spirit for 1 elixir cycles, Evolved Skeleton Army that spawns a Skeleton General, Evolved Skeleton Barrel that drops a buffed Barrel of Death, Skeleton King as your champion anchor, Suspicious Bush for invisible pressure, and the log to handle swarms. Yeah, this is basically a skeleton convention. The whole strategy is about overwhelming your opponent with swarm after swarm while constantly baiting out their spells. You're basically forcing them to choose which threat to deal with and punishing every wrong choice they make. Every single card in this deck is designed to either bait a spell or capitalize when your opponent's spells are gone. The deck works by using Evolved Skeleton Barrel and Suspicious Bush to chip towers, forcing your opponent to waste log or arrows. Once their spells are gone, you drop Evolved Skeleton Army or Fire Spirits on their push and watch it melt. Skeleton King is your defensive anchor. While he's on the field, dying troops turn into souls that he collects. When you activate his ability, he spawns skeletons based on how many souls he's collected. When you time his ability on the bridge, after collecting souls, it catches people completely off guard and creates a swarm they can't deal with. This thing pulls a 61% win rate across thousands of games, even though barely anyone's running it right now in top ladder. We're talking it's basically invisible in the current meta, which makes this a seriously slept-on deck. The reason this deck is so high skill is because you need god tier prediction skills. You're counting elixir in your head constantly, predicting when they're about to log, timing Skeleton King haunts on the bridge for surprise damage, and microing swarms frame perfect to avoid splash damage. One mistake and you're done. Miss a prediction and they defend for free. Drop your skeleton army too early and it gets logged. This deck has zero room for error. It's like playing chess while someone's yelling at you. But if you thought cycling skeletons was hard, wait until you see this next one. Hog Evolved Bats 2.5 Cycle. This deck will have you spamming Hog Rider at the bridge every 3 seconds like a maniac. And somehow, it works. Hog Evolved. Bats 2. Thief is pure aggression. You've got evolved bats with overheal. Every time they attack, they heal and can double their max health. Earthquake to chip buildings and towers through any defense. Evolved Firecracker. Hog Rider as your main win condition. Ice Spirit. Mini P.E.K.K.A. to delete any tank they try to drop. Skeletons for cheap distraction, and the log to clear swarms. The entire game plan is non-stop hog pressure. You're not trying to build big pushes or defend perfectly, you're just throwing hogs at the bridge over and over, defending with minimal elixir, and cycling back to do it again. Your opponent's going to think their game is lagging with how often they see Hog Rider. The moment your opponent spends elixir on offense, you're punishing opposite lane with another hog. It's relentless. Earthquake is what makes this deck so annoying to face. It chips buildings and towers, so even if they have a Tesla or cannon to stop your hog, you're still getting value every single time. Evolved Bats defend with their overheal, making them incredibly tanky. They keep healing as they attack and can reach double their normal health. Evolved Firecracker clears swarms. Mini P.E.K.K.A. is your tank killer. Anything heavy comes down, and Mini P just deletes it. The deck barely shows up in recent competitive data, but when people do run it correctly, the win rates sit comfortably above average. That tells you this deck works, it's just not popular yet. The skill comes from split lane pressure, kiting tanks into your mini P.E.K.K.A. so they walk into the damage, and spreading bats against splash damage so they don't all die to one zap. You need to track elixir like a calculator and know exactly when to punish opposite lane. If they drop a golem in the back, you're not defending, you're going opposite lane with hog and forcing them to respond. That's the entire playstyle. Just constant chaos. But this next deck takes the Hog Cycle concept and cranks it to a whole new level. Hog Mighty Miner 2.6. Hog Mighty Miner 2.6 is one of the most played high skill decks in 2025. You're running Barbarian Barrel for cheap spell cycling, Evo Cannon, Earthquake, Electro Spirit and Skeletons for fast cycle, Evo Firecracker, Hog Rider, and Mighty Miner who digs underground and drops bombs while building damage over time. It's a control cycle deck that uses Mighty Miner's champion ability to reposition and drop bombs while his damage ramps up the longer he stays on one target. You're constantly rotating cards, building elixir advantages, and chipping towers with Hog and Earthquake. Mighty Miner is the key card here. His damage increases over time like Inferno Dragon, and when you activate his ability, he digs to the opposite side and drops a bomb that knocks back enemies. It's perfect for dodging big spells or escaping swarms while dealing damage. The stats on this deck are actually crazy. Over 50% win rate consistently across massive sample sizes. We're talking close to 75,000 games tracked just in the past week alone. Evolved Cannon shoots multiple cannonballs that deal area damage and knock back entire pushes, which completely shuts down swarms and charging units. Evolved Firecracker's projectile breaks into shrapnel that leaves lingering damage like poison, clearing entire pushes over time. And Mighty Miner's ramping damage melts through tanks while his bomb ability gives you defensive flexibility. The skill ceiling is insane. You need to master champion ability timing, knowing when to activate Mighty Miner's dig for repositioning versus keeping him locked on a target to maximize his ramping damage. Placement precision is huge. One tile off and your Evolved Cannon doesn't hit the right units. And adaptive trading means you're constantly calculating whether to defend or pressure opposite lane. One wrong placement or poorly timed Mighty Miner ability, and you lose the match. This deck punishes mistakes harder than almost any other. And if you thought that deck was popular, this next one basically defined Clash Royale. Hog Evolved Cannon 2.6 cycle. This deck has been dominating ladder since 2017. 8 years later, it's still meta. Hog Evolved Cannon 2.6 is the OG. You've got Evolved Cannon as your defensive anchor. Fireball for spell value on clumps. Hog Rider chip damage every cycle. Ice Golem to kite tanks across the arena. Ice Spirit for cycling fast. Musketeer providing range DPS from the back. Evo Skeletons, and the Log to clear swarms. It's the defensive benchmark that every other cycle deck gets compared to. You probably hate this deck, but now you're going to understand why it is a high skill deck. You're using Ice Golem to kite tanks across the arena, Evolved Cannon to shred them while they're distracted, Musketeer for ranged DPS that snipes supports, and Hog for constant chip damage on towers. Fireball punishes elixir collectors and clumped units behind tanks, while Log and Skeletons handle swarms. Every card has a purpose, and nothing is wasted. The performance numbers are ridiculous. Over 50% win rate with literally hundreds of thousands of games played every single week. This deck crushes Beatdown and Siege. Anything slow gets outcycled and chipped to death. It goes even against Bait because of Log taking out Goblin Gang and Princess. The only things it really struggles against are heavy air decks like Lava Hound or Spell Bait variants that cycle faster than you can keep up with. The reason it's lasted 8 years is because the fundamentals are timeless. Kiting, elixir counting, prediction, and perfect defender rotations. These skills never go out of style. It's like the little black dress of Clash Royale decks. The skill comes from flawless micro, prediction spells, and outcycling your opponent. You need frame-perfect kiting, dragging that giant or P.E.K.K.A. across the entire arena into your cannon's range. Elixir counting for double Hog pushes, knowing when they're low, and you can send Hog plus Ice Golem for a guaranteed connection. And the ability to read your opponent's hand, knowing what cards they have left and predicting their next play. This is the deck that separates good players from great ones. Magic Archer Miner Wall Breakers. Some people call this the highest skill deck in all of Clash Royale, and honestly, they might be right. Magic Archer Miner Wall Breakers is absolutely insane when played correctly. You're running Magic Archer, who shoots arrows that pierce through enemies and travel his full range, hitting multiple troops. Miner, who can be placed anywhere on the arena to chip towers or snipe supports. Wall Breakers that sprint at buildings and blow themselves up for massive damage. Bomb Tower for defensive splash and building distraction. Valkyrie spinning through swarms. Tornado pulling troops into clumps or King Tower activations. The Log clearing ground units. And Spear Goblins for cheap cycle and chip. Every card demands crazy precision or you just lose. Magic Archer needs pixel-perfect placement at exact angles to hit troops behind tanks while staying out of spell range. His arrows pierce through everything in their path, so positioning is everything. One tile off and you miss completely or get fireballed. Miner placement is constant mind games. You're mixing up tiles on the tower to avoid predictions. Wall Breakers need split-second timing to connect before getting countered by literally any splash card. And Tornado Pulls require predicting troop pathing to activate King Tower or clump enemies for Magic Archer value. The crazy part is, this deck rewards absolutely insane plays. You can activate King Tower with Tornado Pulls that drag troops into range. You can get clutch defenses with Miner tanking tower damage, while your Magic Archer picks off supports from across the map. When you pull off a perfect Magic Archer angle that pierces through 3 different troops at once, it feels illegal. Your opponent just watches their entire push melt from one ranged unit they can't even spell because of the angle. But here's the thing, sometimes it just doesn't work. You need those crazy placements every single time, or you get rolled. Miss one Magic Archer angle and their push connects. Misplace Miner by 1 tile, and they predict it. Wall breakers get countered before connecting. The margin for error is non-existent. This deck is either the most satisfying thing you've ever played or the most frustrating experience of your life. No in between. If you can master this deck, you're basically a god, but most players can't. Mighty Miner Evolved Wall Breakers is pure chaos. Evolved Wall Breakers are the star here, because even when you kill them, the barrels keep running at full speed. Your opponent thinks they stopped your push. Nope. The barrels are still coming for that tower. Mighty Miner ramps up damage like Inferno Dragon the longer he locks onto something, and when things get sketchy, he just digs underground, repositions, and drops a bomb. Miner chips towers, poison melts clumps, and Evolved Cannon drops 9 bombs across the entire arena when you place it. 4 on your side, 5 on theirs. It's raining explosives. The whole strategy is overwhelming your opponent with threats that don't die. Wall breakers get destroyed, barrels keep going, they finally stop those. You're already sending Miner to tank the next wave. This deck pulls close to 50% win rate when played right. It destroys cycle decks because wall breakers move so fast they can't react. But tank decks, they'll just ignore your pressure and push harder on the other lane. You're trying to break through with barrels and they're taking your tower with a golem. Awkward. The skill is all about timing. You need to know exactly when to send wall breakers so they connect, or at least force bad trades, using Mighty Miner's bomb to reposition when he's surrounded, and counting elixir so you know when they can't defend. If they're sitting at 4 elixir and you've got 8, you're sending everything and they're cooked. And if you thought wall breakers were aggressive, wait until you see Flying Pigs. Evolved Royal Hogs Archer Queen. 4 Flying Pigs split pushing both lanes while Archer Queen goes invisible. Absolute madness. Evolved Royal Hogs spawn in the air and dive bomb their targets for fall damage. It's like they're doing superhero landings every single attack. Archer Queen's ability makes her invisible with crazy attack speed. She just vanishes and shreds towers before they can react. Evolved Cannon drops bombs everywhere on deploy. Earthquake deletes buildings before your hogs even arrive, and Ice Spirit leaves a freeze zone that keeps freezing. You're forcing your opponent to defend 2 lanes at once, or just lose a tower. It's whack-a-mole with Flying Pigs. This deck is crushing right now. Over 50% win rate with hundreds of thousands of games tracked. It destroys single target defenses because you've got 4 hogs, they place Inferno Tower, and 3 hogs get through for free. Against Siege, you just earthquake their buildings and rush. Expo locks your tower. Cool, you're taking theirs faster. The weakness is Air Swarm. If they've got Minion Horde or Skeleton Dragons, you're in trouble. The skill is timing Archer Queen's invisibility perfectly for maximum tower damage while she can't be targeted. Splitting your hogs so they're pressuring both sides. And managing 2 lanes at once, your brain's doing cardio tracking where all their defenders are. But dual lane pressure is nothing compared to pure psychological warfare. Wall Breakers Evolved Goes. Bait. 3.1 cycle. Almost 60% win rates. The secret? Making your opponent question reality. This is a bait deck on steroids. Evolved Royal Ghost naturally turns invisible after not fighting for 1.8 seconds, and when he attacks while invisible, he spawns 2 soldiers for extra damage. Evolved Skeleton Barrel drops 2 barrels with massive death damage instead of 1. Vines literally freeze the 3 tankiest enemies in place so your ground units can just beat them up. And Wall Breakers? They're your finisher when all the spells are gone. The whole point is making your opponent waste spells on Ghost and Barrel, then punishing with Wall Breakers when they've got nothing left. This deck is gaslighting people. They think they defended everything, and then Wall Breakers just explode through their tower. Win rates pushing 60% across over 100,000 games. That's insane for a competitive deck. It beats Cycle easily because they don't have enough answers. But heavy splash like Executioner or Bowler, they just kill everything regardless of spells. The skill is sequencing your baits perfectly. You need to know which spell to bait first. Log, bait it before sending Wall Breakers. Arrows, bait with Dart Goblin or Rascals. And timing Royal Ghost's invisibility so he spawns those soldiers right on the tower. One wrong sequence and they're taking your tower with spells you should have baited. It's poker, but with explosives. But if you want air pressure, this next one's different. Evolved Musketeer, Loon 2.9 Cycle Balloon. Connecting to tower is game over. This deck makes it happen way too often. Balloon is your win condition. One good connection and it's wraps. Evolved Musketeer is the key. She gets 3 sniper shots that deal increased damage at infinite range. They try to defend with minions, deleted, Mega Minion, gone. Your opponent's air defense might as well not exist. Giant Snowball rolls across the arena, pulling troops with it, Ice Golem tanks for Balloon, and Miner chips towers or tanks buildings. You're constantly threatening Balloon connections, and they're forced to overcommit or lose. over 50% win rate across tens of thousands of games. It crushes ground-heavy decks because they literally can't defend Balloon without air troops, and Evo Must just snipes those instantly. One Balloon Bomb is over 1,000 damage. The weakness? Air decks. If they're running Lava Hound or multiple dragons, you're struggling. The skill is pathing Balloon correctly, using Snowball to pull defenders away so Balloon flies over them, split pushing with Miner to bait air defense, then dropping Balloon opposite lane. You're reading their hand and knowing what they have left to defend. It's 4D chess with a floating bomb, but air isn't the only way to apply range pressure. X-Bow 3.0 cycle. This deck forces your opponent to watch their tower die while they can't even reach you. X-Bow locks onto towers from your side of the arena. You're not crossing the bridge, you're sitting back and making them come to you. Evolved Archers deal bonus damage from 4-6 tiles away. Evolved Tesla pops up with a stun pulse that hits everything in a 6-tile radius. Knight tanks with his shield that reduces 60% damage. You defend their push for less elixir than they spent, then drop X-Bow and force them to overcommit to destroy it. It's the ultimate I'm not touching you strategy. Consistently, over 50% win rate. It beats aggressive decks easily. They rush, you defend, they're out of elixir, you drop X-Bow for free, but it loses hard to tanks that just push the other lane. They drop Golem opposite lane and you have to choose. Defend the Golem or keep your X-Bow alive. Usually you lose one. The skill is building placement. X-Bow and Tesla have to be perfect or they're useless. One tile off and your X-Bow doesn't reach the tower, or your Tesla doesn't pull right. And cycling back to X-Bow at the perfect time, too early and they counter it, too late and you lose the elixir advantage. One wrong placement and you just threw the match. And if you thought X-Bow was annoying, this uses Royal Giant. Evolved Royal Giant Fishboy Hunter 3.0 cycle 57% win rates, and it uses Fisherman in the most broken way possible. Evolved Royal Giant shoots towers from your side with shockwaves knocking back enemies around him every attack. Hunter shreds with shotgun spread. The closer the target, the more damage. And Fisherman, he's pulling your opponent's troops wherever he wants. Hooks their Mega Knight away from your tower, pulls their Tesla out of Royal Giant's range, yanks their supports into Hunter's face. You're playing Puppet Master with their entire deck. Evolved Royal Ghost goes invisible naturally and spawns Soldiers when attacking invisible for bonus damage. Win rates pushing 57% across over 100,000 games. It counters buildings because Fisherman just yanks them out of position. They place Tesla to counter RG. You hook it out and RG still hits tower. It melts tanks because Hunter's spread damage is insane up close and Fisherman pulls them right into it. The skill is Fisherman pull timing. Too early and it's on cooldown when you need it. Too late and they've already reached your tower. Hunter placements for maximum spread, and using Royal Ghost's invisibility cycle to spawn Soldiers on towers. This deck has so many moving parts you need perfect coordination or it falls apart. But if you wanted the absolute peak of defensive control, this last one's it. Dark Prince Miner 3.0 cycle. This deck makes your opponent overcommit, then rockets them to death every single time. Dark Prince charge spins through everything with 360-degree damage. Evolved Ice Spirit freezes, then freezes again 3 seconds later with a lingering freeze zone. Evolved Tesla pops up with a stun pulse. And Rocket, that's how you're winning. They spend 8 elixir on a push, you rocket their supports and tower for massive value. Minor chips when you have elixir. You're not trying to win with big pushes, you're defending perfectly and rocketing them to death over 2 minutes. Death by 1,000 cuts, except the cuts are giant missiles. Win rate sits in the mid-40s because this deck requires absolute mastery. One wrong building placement or mistimed rocket and you lose. If you rocket and miss the supports, you just threw 6 elixir for nothing. If Tesla doesn't pulse correctly, their push connects and you lose your tower. It beats beatdown by defending everything and rocketing supports, but it struggles against bait and cycle. They're dropping threats faster than you can defend. The skill is prediction rockets. Knowing exactly where their supports will be and rocketing before they even place them. Tesla timing, so it pulses and stuns perfectly. And value cycles, using Evolved Ice Spirit's double freeze and Skeletons to defend entire pushes for 1 or 2 elixir. You're counting elixir down to the single point and reading their entire hand. This is the absolute peak of defensive control. You're basically a mind reader with explosives.